I think I think I was maybe 7, 8, 9 years old when I first heard about the problem. And then, of course, by time I read about it more and more and sort of understood how important it was and how severe this crisis was. And so it was around that age, and maybe 10, 11, 12, I think I became really into the climate movement when I was 12, 13, and that's when I became like a climate activist. I went to demonstrations in my spare time, and I tried to join organizations and movements and so on. And but then I just thought that everything was still happening too slow and that it wasn't going fast enough. So then I just decided that I'm going to do something on my own, and that might not work, but there's a chance it can have an impact, and I thought, why not try? So then I started school striking for the climate.
You went through a crisis in that period after you were 8 years old. Can you talk about what you went through?
Yeah, it was... After that, I sort of caught up with reading about it, and I understood, and that made me very depressed, of course. And when you are the only one who really reacts about this crisis, and everyone else seems to just, okay, it's very important, but I'm too busy with my life. And I just thought that it was very strange that no one else was behaving in a logical way. And so
What would that logical way have been?
To do something, to step out of your comfort zone and to realize that, okay, we cannot continue like we have done now. We need to do something drastically, and I'm going to do everything I can to help to push in the right direction. But no one seemed to do that. My parents were just like continuing like before. My classmates, every one of my relatives, I mean, no one seemed to care about these issues except me. And that was a strange feeling.
And so you descended into a depression?
Yes, it was, of course, caused by many reasons, but that was, I think, the biggest reason to it, because I just thought that everything is just so wrong, and everything is so strange, and everything is so sad, and why isn't anyone doing anything about this? And so then I fell into a depression, and it lasted for maybe a year or something, and then
You stopped talking?
Yeah, I stopped talking because I have selective mutism, or at least had. They said it sometimes grows away. That I only spoke to some people, my teacher, for instance, my parents, some members of my family, and so on. And I stopped eating almost entirely. It was a big problem. I lost a lot of weight because I was just so depressed. Nothing seemed to matter anymore. And but then I started to come back, to become better, to feel better. And a reason for that was because I saw that there are actually things you can do, and I realized that I can do things. I shouldn't be sitting here doing nothing, wasting my time when I can actually have an impact. And then I sort of started to become better, and then I became a climate activist, and that helped a lot. And I think the more involved I became, the more involved I got in the climate movement, the better I feel, the happier I feel, because I feel like I'm doing something important, something meaningful.
So talk about what happened, what you did about, just about a year ago now. You were 15 years old. You went in front of the Swedish Parliament every single day at the beginning?
Yeah. Every school day, not Saturday and Sunday, but every school day for 3 weeks until the upcoming election. And then that was my plan to stop after the election. But then on the Friday, September 7th, that's when Fridays for Future started, because then I thought, why not continue? Why stop now when we are actually having an impact? So then I and some other school strikers thought that we should go on, and we should call it Fridays for Future, and we should be on Fridays.
And how did the Swedish MPs respond to you, this 15-year-old girl, teenager, on the steps of the Swedish Parliament all day?
In the beginning, they didn't notice me. Everyone just went straight past, and
were you holding a sign?
Yes, a big sign made out of wood.
That said?
Yeah.
It said on it?
Skolstrejk för klimatet. And then some flyers I handed out, where it said, we children don't usually do what you adults tell us to do, we do as you do. And since you don't give a damn about my future, then I won't either. So I'm school striking for the climate, and so on. And on the back, I had spent a lot of time writing down facts I thought everyone should know. And I handed out these flyers. And but in the beginning, no one noticed me. Everyone just went straight past. Even when people started to gather there, the politicians, the parliamentarians, they didn't see me. And then to some point it became ridiculous in a way, because I saw them every day first, and then every Friday, and they never said hi. So after a while they started to say like, hi, good morning. And I said, good morning. But they didn't really highlight it in a way. And then when it became famous, when it became big, then they started to, of course, take advantage of that and say like, we support Greta and the school strikers, and so on. Because they will always post next to you if that gains them. And
do you remember what some of the facts were on the back of that poster you carried?
Yes, it was that, of course, it needs to be updated today, but it was like up to 200 species are going extinct every single day. And then, of course, sources on that. And like, we are in the beginning of the 6th mass extinction. And just facts that I thought people should know, that should be common knowledge. And also a bit about Swedish emissions, about how a lot of our emissions weren't even included in the official emissions, and just how much the average Swede emits CO2 per year and so on. I think it was 2 or 3, maybe 4 years ago, I stopped flying, and because that seemed like a big thing to do, because the climate impact of aviation on a global scale, individually, it has such a big carbon footprint. And so I just decided I'm not going to fly anymore. And that, of course, was a lot of trouble for my family because they wanted us to go on vacation and so on. So I was kind of a troublemaker. But then I actually convinced them, I guilted them into also doing it. First my mom, and then my dad as well, and my sister as well. And then also I am vegan, and I have shop stop. It means that you don't buy new things, consume new things unless you absolutely have to. So, and just these small things I can do in my everyday life, apart from activism and highlighting the problem.
So in terms of being a vegan, explain what that means.
That I don't use any products made from, I don't eat, for example,
any animal products?
Any animal products. I don't use any animal products, both because of ethical and environmental and climate reasons.
And in terms of clothes, you don't buy new clothes?
No. Either I buy secondhand, or I receive clothes from someone else, or I just keep my own clothes, maybe use my sister's clothes or my mother's or father's clothes, and yeah,
So when we saw you in Poland at the UN Climate Summit in Katowice, talk about how you got there. If you don't fly, talk about how you get around.
I go by bus, by train, electrical car, and sailboat now as well. And it takes a lot of time. And of course, I'm not saying that everyone should stop flying and start sailing everywhere. But I thought that I am one of the very few people in the world who can actually do this and who has this opportunity to do this trip. And then I thought, why not? And it sure gained a lot of attention.